In this video, we're going to be testing these 4 different servos in RC drifting. Is it really worth it to spend the extra money, or can you get away with a $15 or $25 servo versus a $75 ReveD or the $120 KST servo? We're going to be putting all 4 of these servos through their paces in my drift car to see really what do you get with the $15 one all the way up to the 120, and which one might be the best choice for you. For testing all of these servos, I'm going to be using my ReveD RS drift car. One of the reasons why I believe this car will be actually probably a very good test bed to see the quality of these servos is it is a direct steering system. So there is not a lot of linkage. There's actually, I guess technically almost zero linkage between the servo and the steering. So any kind of jitter, any kind of imprecision in the servo is going to be immediately noticed in the front wheels. There's no wiper system, there's no slide rack system in order to help mask any of that. And then my test surface for today is my typical garage test track. So I have a couple different abilities here to do just circles to see how smooth the car will do around a circle. I will frequently through this portion do a figure 8, simple layout there. And then we get into more of a complex layout, tying everything from the whole garage together. That's what we're going to be doing to test these servos back to back. I will be using these with my Futaba controller, and I am currently running the ReveD Revox gyro. So obviously gyro and servo compatibility is a big deal. I've had certain issues where maybe some gyros don't like certain servos. This ReveD has been pretty accommodating so far, and so I'm going to be very curious with the Futaba and ReveD Revox. How much do we really notice with these different servos? First up for test is the ReveD, since it's already installed. I'm going to go through a set regimen of tests here and show you how it does. As to be expected, the ReveD servo does really well. What you saw me driving out here on was about 55% gyro gain, and I think I'm in like the 3 setting of level on the gyro. If I go up above that with this direct drive system, I start to get into a little bit of a shake. Probably get into the 60s-ish or so before it starts to really shaking. So I'm in about 50 or so with this servo, so that's going to be also a baseline for us. But very precise, very easy to control. I don't get any hunting with the servo or anything along those lines. It seems like it works just about as good as you'd imagine for like a $75 drift designed servo. So that's going to be our benchmark, and now we're going to go test those cheaper servos and that more expensive one from KST. Next on the list, this is the $15 JX servo. So looks plenty fast, nice, and but look at this. We have this little, we have a chatter, which is somewhat unusual. I haven't seen that before, but it doesn't like necessarily on center. It's not like I have a heavy wheel and this is shattering. We've seen that before sometimes when people put heavy wheels on, that they shake back and forth, but no, that's not good. So we're gonna have to see how this actually drives. This JX servo at $15, honestly, that's pretty dang good, you know. Now, immediately, you could see the wobble at center, and then you could see as we were going around the track, like there was a lot more wobble at the same gyro gain as the ReveD RS-ST. I had to back it down to about 45% gyro gain in order to get rid of the wobble with this. And then I started to lose a little bit of the control and the driving of the vehicle. It wasn't quite as smooth. So is there a gap between this and the ReveD? Yes, there definitely is a gap. But there's also a like $60 gap in price. Plus you add on the programmer to the ReveD servo. Oh my gosh, that's a huge price difference in the servos, and this actually did pretty dang well. So depending on the vehicle you're in and how serious you're getting with drifting, you could really start off with one of these $15 servos and actually get your car up and running. At least that was my experience here with the components that I'm using. Clearly when you put this in your vehicle, it may end up being slightly different. Now we are going with the $25 Injora servo. Injora servo, $10 more than that JX, 100% worth that extra $10. This is actually really surprised me. They must, like Injora claims that this is somehow drift spec. They must have some level of dampening programming or something in this, because I ran this thing all the way up to 65% gyro gain before I started to get any kind of wobble out of it or anything, which is higher than I'm getting with the ReveD RS-ST, how I have it currently configured. So for $25, this Injora, oh my gosh, like I thought I was a little bit surprised by that JX. This is another level now. So really very precise, very stable. I like can have to 100% recommend this. I don't have a reason why anybody shouldn't get this. But now it's time to flip the game all the way around and go to the expensive side. $120, the KST Servo. These folks aren't necessarily known as well on the surface side of RC, but are really known for their high precision, very high quality stuff in the airspace. So let's see how this low profile, super small servo does in a drift car. Now with the KST Servo installed, this might legitimately be the fastest servo that we have of the group at very high speed. Plenty of room in here to mount it. Let's get it down and try it out. This KST Servo, honestly, really good feel, did really well, but honestly didn't do enough different compared to the other servos to actually justify the price premium probably. At $120, it's noticeably more expensive than the two budget servos. Probably somewhat-ish in line with the ReveD servo once you consider the programmer and everything else installed in it. But honestly, really low profile, would fit in a bunch of different drift applications with no clearance issues whatsoever. Really like that. Now, if you follow the channel, you'll know that one of the things I'm very passionate about is reducing weight as much as possible on my drift car. So one of the things I'm curious about is, of these four servos, which one actually weighs less? Got the scale out. We're going to test every single one, see what the deal is. All right. Interestingly enough, both the ReveD and the JX, 44 grams. The Injora right behind it at 48, and then the KST at 52. So you're stepping up 4 grams, and then another 4 grams here. So a total of 8 between these two, the ReveD and the JX and the KST. I think most of that comes down to the full metal case and everything that we have here. I then decided I wanted to take these servos apart to see if I could tell any big difference on what was inside of them. The ReveD, for some reason, didn't want to come apart. It was like it was somewhat glued together. Even after I got the screws out, it wouldn't come apart. When you look at the JX, the cheapest one that we have here of the bunch, we still have bearings inside the case and on everything, but you do have, it looks like more of like a brass gear here. So would it be a little bit, maybe not quite as durable. When you jump over to the Injora, you do end up, it looks more like of a steel gear, aluminum or a steel gear, I didn't tell. But again, bearings and everything else, so you're getting a little bit something different there. And as we jump over to the KST, one of the things that really stands out to me, one, lack of gears. So they're not doing nearly as much gear reduction to get in there. It tells me the motor might be a slightly higher quality. The other thing is, look at the pitch of the gear teeth on here, a much finer precision tooth gear compared to either one of these. So you can tell it's probably some of where that price is coming from. We got sealed bearings in here and stuff along those lines. Definitely looked a little bit more greased up and waterproofed. Basically nothing here on the JX, and you got some kind of a grease here on the Injora. And you can kind of see the quality step as you go. No doubt to me that this KST is probably the highest quality servo of the three, and the price kind of goes along with that. Now, with all this said and done, which one am I putting back in my car? The only one that I'm not putting in there is the JX servo, and I gotta, sorry Mike, I have a buddy who likes these. Yeah, he might be wrong. So this is the only one that's not going in there. I think you can't go wrong with any of the others. The fact that the ReveD is also the lightest weight means I'm probably gonna put it back in there. Not only is the lightest weight, it is the only programmable one that I have here, so it is the better choice since I already own it. But the key is, if you want one that gets you started at a fraction of the price, dude, I really don't think you can go wrong with this Injora servo. Now, of course, I can't say that it will work with all gyros and all controllers well. You saw I tested it with my Futaba controller and my ReveD gyro today, the Revox. I can confirm that it works pretty well with those in a RedCat RDS. Your results may vary depending on what your exact combo is. And then the KST servo, honestly, probably the highest quality of the bunch, but the price tag comes with it. I will probably end up using this somewhere else. I don't know if I'll end up putting this in a drift car, or if I'm gonna end up putting it like I have a 2-wheel drive race short course truck. I could probably do really, really well in there. So might end up putting it into something like that. I think it'd be a very, very good application. So that is my take. The ReveD is what ends up going back in my car because I already own it, and for the tunability and adjustability. So I hope this was useful for you. If you're trying to get into drifting, or you're looking at what your servo options are, there's a bunch and a bunch out there. These are 4 that I came across to kind of piqued my interest and that I would test. So I hope that was useful for you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. If you're interested in any of my other drift tech that I have done, there's a playlist over to your right. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.